As soon as dawn appeared, fresh and rosy-fingered, noble Odysseus's dear son Telemachus was eager to set out for the city. He bound his elegant sandals on his feet, picked up his strong spear that so well fitted his grasp, and as he set out for the city, he said to his swineherd, "Old friend, I am going to the town now to show myself to my mother. I'm sure she won't stop her dismal weeping and lamenting until she sees me in the flesh. So here are my instructions for you. Take our unfortunate visitor to the city and let him beg there for his meals. Anyone who wants to will give him a crust and a cup of water. I myself cannot possibly look after all and sundry. I have too many troubles on my mind. And if he is annoyed by this, so much the worse for him. I believe in plain speaking."
"Friend,"
the quick-witted Odysseus here put in,
"I myself have no wish to be left behind. A town is a better place than the country for a man to beg for food. People who want to will give to me. I am unsuited by my age to live on a farm at a master's beck and call. So go on your way, and presently this man will bring me along as you have told him to, when I have warmed myself at the fire and the sun gets hot. For these clothes of mine are terribly thin, and I am afraid the morning frost might be too much for me. It's a long walk to the town, as you have told me."
and probably hiding a little grin there because he knows it's his daddy. Telemachus now went off through the farm with rapid strides, planning vengeance on the suitors. When he reached the stately palace, he leant his spear against one of the tall pillars, then crossed the stone threshold and went in. The first to see him was the nurse, Euryclea, who was busy spreading rugs over ornate chairs. With tears in her eyes, she ran up to meet him, and soon all the maids of the brave Odysseus were pressing round him and showering affectionate kisses on his head and shoulders. And now the wise Penelope came out from her room, looking like Artemis or golden Aphrodite, and dissolved in tears as she threw her arms round her son's neck and kissed his forehead and his fine eyes.
"You're back, Telemachus, light of my eyes,"
she said between her sobs.
"and I thought I would never see you again after you had sailed for Pylos to find out about your dear father. So secretly, so much against my wishes. Come, tell me whether you saw him."
"Mother," the thoughtful Telemachus replied, "do not bring me to tears or stir my emotions when I have just escaped from a violent death. But go upstairs to your room with your ladies, and when you have washed and changed into fresh clothes, pray to all the gods, promising them the most perfect offerings if Zeus ever grants us a day of reckoning. I myself will go to the assembly place to fetch a guest who accompanied me on my journey back. I sent him ahead of me to the town with my good crew and told Pireus to take him home and treat him with all care and respect till I came. To this Penelope made no reply, but went and bathed, changed into fresh clothes, and then vowed to make a perfect offering to all the gods if ever Zeus should grant her house a day of reckoning. Telemachus strode across the hall and went out, carrying his spear, with 2 hunting hounds at his heels. Athene endowed him with such supernatural grace that all eyes were turned on him in admiration as he approached. The high-born suitors gathered round him in a throng, with kindly speeches on their lips and evil brewing in their hearts. But he evaded them as they crowded round, and found a seat with Mentor, Antiphus, and Halitherses, old friends of his father. As they were plying him with questions about his voyage, Pireus, the famous spearman, came up with his guest Theoclymenus, whom he had escorted through the streets to the assembly place. Telemachus, far from ignoring his guest, immediately rose to meet him, but it was Pireus who spoke first.
"Telemachus, do send some women straight away to my house to collect the gifts Menelaus gave you.
No, Piraeus, the cautious Telemachus said. None of us can tell what is going to happen. If my lords the suitors assassinate me in the palace and divide up my estate, I should like you or one of my friends here to keep and enjoy the treasures. On the other hand, if I succeed in sending the suitors to their doom, then bring the gifts to my house and make us both happy. This settled, he led the way home for his travel-worn guest and brought him to the stately palace, where they threw down their cloaks on settles and chairs, stepped into the polished baths, and bathed. When the maidservants had finished bathing them, because again they can't do it on their own, and rubbing them with oil, they gave them tunics and threw warm cloaks round their shoulders, and the two left the baths and sat down on the chairs. A maid came with water in a fine golden jug and poured it out over a silver basin for them to rinse their hands. She drew up a polished table, and the faithful housekeeper brought some bread and set it by them, together with a choice of delicacies, helping them liberally to all she could offer. Telemachus's mother sat opposite them by a pillar of the hall, reclining in an easy chair and spinning the delicate thread on her distaff, while they helped themselves to good food laid before them. When they had all satisfied their hunger and thirst, the wise Penelope broke the silence, saying,
Telemachus, I am going upstairs. I am going to lie down on my bed of sorrows watered by my tears, ever since Odysseus went with the sons of Atreus to Ilion.
I sense some emotional blackmail happening.
You could not bring yourself to tell me before the proud suitors come back to the house, whether you have heard anything about your father's return.
Well, he has. He's met his father. Very well, mother, said Telemachus. I will tell you the truth. We went to Pylos and there visited King Nestor, the shepherd of his people, who received me in his great palace and showed me every hospitality. He might have been my father, and I his long-lost son, just back from my travels. So kindly did he and his royal sons look after me. But of the brave Odysseus, alive or dead, he said he had not heard a single word from anyone on earth. However, he lent me a sturdy chariot and a pair to take me on to the famous warrior Menelaus, Atreus' son. And there I saw Helen of Argos, for whose sake the Argives and Trojans, by a god's will, suffered so much. Menelaus of the loud war cry asked what had brought me to this pleasant land of Lacedaemon, and when I had explained the whole matter, he cried, "How disgraceful! So the cowards want to creep into the brave man's bed. It is just as if a deer had put her two little unweaned fawns to sleep in a mighty lion's den, and gone to range the high ridges and the grassy dales for pasture. Back comes the lion to his lair, and the two fawns meet a grisly fate, as will these suitors at Odysseus' hands. Once, in the pleasant isle of Lesbos, I saw him stand up to Philomelades in a wrestling match. And are you really going to go through every single word that Menelaus said? Could you not just, paraphrase? And bring him down with a mighty throw which delighted all the Achaeans. By Father Zeus, Athene, and Apollo, that's the Odysseus I should like to see these suitors meet. A swift death and a sorry wedding there would be for all. But as for your appeal and the questions you ask me, I have no wish to deceive you or to put you off with evasive answers. On the contrary, I shall pass on to you without concealment or reserve every word that I heard myself, from the infallible lips of the old man of the sea. He told me that he had seen your father in great distress on an island in the nymph Calypso's palace, where she keeps him captive. For without ship or crew to carry him so far across the sea, it is impossible for him to reach his home. That is all I found out from Atreus' son, the famous warrior Menelaus. This accomplished, I left him. The immortal gods sent me a favourable wind and brought me quickly back to my beloved Ithaca." Penelope was deeply moved by what Telemachus told her, and now the godlike Theoclymenus joined in. "Shush, Gaius. Really? I see. What?"
"Honourable lady, wife of Laertes' son Odysseus, Menelaus has no accurate information. But listen to me. I will give you a clear and truthful prophecy. I swear by Zeus before all other gods, and by the board of hospitality, and by the good Odysseus' hearth at which I stand, that Odysseus is actually in his own country at this moment, at rest or on the move, gathering information about these crimes.
"Shut up, no one's supposed to know."
And scheming revenge on the suitors. Witness the omen which I saw as I sat on our good ship and revealed to Telemachus."
"Sir,"
said the prudent Penelope,
"may what you say prove true. If it does, you will soon receive from me such friendship and generosity that anyone who meets you will call you a fortunate man."
While they were talking together inside Odysseus' palace, the suitors, in their high and mighty way, were amusing themselves outside with throwing the discus and javelin in their usual place, the levelled terrace in front of Odysseus' palace. When supper time arrived, and the sheep returned from the fields round about in the charge of usual drovers, Medon, who was their favourite herald and always attended their meals, came to summon them.
"Now that you young men have enjoyed your sports,"
he said,
"come inside so that we may get ready for supper. There's much to be said for a meal at the right time."
The suitors did as he requested, left their games, and flocked into the stately palace, where they threw down their cloaks on the seats and chairs, and prepared for a banquet by slaughtering some full-grown sheep and goats, as well as several fatted hogs and a heifer from the herd. Odysseus and the loyal swineherd were now preparing to come in from the country to the town. It was the master herdsman who spoke first.
"Friend,"
he said,
"I see you are still determined to go to the town today, as my master said you should. I myself would rather leave you here to look after the farm, but I respect and fear him. He might scold me later, and a rebuke from one's master can be very unpleasant. So now let us be on our way. The best part of the day is gone, and you may well find it chilly towards the evening."
"Understood and agreed,"
said Odysseus.
"A word to the wise. Let's make a start, and you must lead all the way. But do give me a staff to lean on, if you have one cut and ready. You say the path is very slippery."
As he spoke, he threw the strap of his poor, shabby knapsack over his shoulders, and Eumaeus gave him a staff to his liking. Then the pair set out, leaving the dogs and herdsmen behind to look after the farm. In this way, Eumaeus brought his master to the city, hobbling along with his staff and looking like a wretched old beggar in the miserable clothes he was wearing. They walked on down a rocky path till they were near the city, and there came to a solidly built, clear-flowing fountain, where the people of the town drew their water. It had been built by Ithacus, Neritus, and Polyctor. A group of black poplars, flourishing on the moisture, encircled the spot. The cool stream came tumbling down from the rock overhead, and above the fountain an altar had been erected to the nymphs, where all travellers made their offerings. Here they came across Melanthius, son of Dolius, who, with 2 drovers to help him, was driving down some goats for the suitors' table, the pick of all his herds. This man no sooner set eyes on them than he burst into a torrent of vulgar abuse, which roused Odysseus to anger.
"Ha!"
the fellow cried.
"One villain leading another, a case of birds of a feather. Tell me, you miserable swineherd, where are you taking this dirty pig of yours, this nauseating beggar and plate licker at the feast?" just the sort to stand scratching his back against the doorposts, begging for scraps, but never asking for swords and cauldrons. Give him to me, to look after the folds, to muck out the pens, and carry fodder to the kids. He might thrive on whey and put some muscles on his thighs, but the fellow has got into bad ways, and work on the farm is the last thing he's looking for. He'd much rather fill his gluttonous belly by grovelling and begging round the town. You mark my words, and time will prove me right. If he goes to noble Odysseus's palace, a shower of footstools shied at his head by the men there will break in pieces on his ribs.
With that, he passed by, and as he did so, the fool landed a kick on Odysseus's hip. That's fucking rude. Failing, however, to push him off the path, so firm was his stance. Odysseus debated whether to leap at the fellow and kill him with his staff, or to lift him by his middle and smash his head on the ground. In the end, he managed to control himself. It was the swineherd who looked Melanthius full in the face and rebuked him.
Nymphs of the fountain, daughters of Zeus,
he cried, raising his hands in earnest prayer.
If ever Odysseus made you a burnt offering of the thighs of rams or kids wrapped up in their rich fat, grant me my wish that he himself may be brought back to us by some god. He'd soon cure you, Melanthius, of all the swaggering ways you have picked up since you took to loafing round the town, while incompetent herdsmen ruin your flocks. Well, I'll be. What a lot of snarling from a vicious mongrel.
That is really rude, retorted the goatherd Melanthius.
One of these days I'll pack him off from Ithaca in a black ship and sell him for a fortune. As for Telemachus, may Apollo with his silver bow shoot him down in the palace this very day, or the suitors crush him as surely as Odysseus's chance of returning home from abroad has gone forever.
With that, he left them to pursue their way, while he himself went ahead and was soon at the king's house, where he went straight in and joined the suitors, taking a seat opposite Eurymachus, who had a liking for him. The servants helped him to the roast, and the trusty housekeeper brought him some bread. Odysseus and the good swineherd now arrived. They paused outside, and the notes from a polished lyre came to their ears, for Eumaeus was just tuning up for a song.
Eumaeus,
said Odysseus, taking the swineherd by the arm.
This must surely be Odysseus's palace. It would be easy to pick it out at a glance from any number of houses. There are buildings beyond buildings. The courtyard wall with its coping is a fine piece of work, and those folding doors are true defences. No one could storm it. I gather too that a large company is there for dinner. One can smell the roast, and someone is playing the lyre. The gods made music and banquets to go together.
All that must be obvious,
said Eumaeus to
someone as shrewd as you, but now let's consider our next move. Either you go into the palace first and approach the suitors, while I stay where I am, or if you prefer it, you wait here and let me be the first to go in. But in that case, don't be long, or they may see you here outside and throw something at you or drive you away. Do think about this.
Right. Agreed,
said the noble long-suffering Odysseus.
A word to the wise. You shall go in first while I stay here, for I am quite used to blows and missiles. I have been toughened by what I have suffered on the waves and on the battlefield. After all that, a bit more makes no difference. But if there is anything that a man can't conceal, it is the craving of an accursed belly, the cause of so much trouble to men. It even prompts them to fit out great ships and sail the barren seas, bringing death and destruction to their enemies.
As they stood talking, a dog lying there lifted his head and pricked up his ears. Argus was his name. Patient Odysseus himself had owned and bred him, though he had sailed for holy Ilium before he could reap the benefit. In years gone by, the young huntsman had often taken him out after wild goats, deer, and hares, but now in his owner's absence he lay abandoned on the heaps of dung from the mules and cattle which lay in profusion at the gate, awaiting removal by Odysseus' servants as manure for his great estate. There, full of vermin, lay Argus the hound. That poor dog. But directly he became aware of Odysseus' presence, he wagged his tail and dropped his ears, though he lacked the strength now to come nearer to his master. Odysseus turned his eyes away, and, making sure Eumaeus did not notice, brushed away a tear and said,
Eumaeus, it is extraordinary to see a hound like this lying in the dung. He's a beauty, though I cannot really tell whether his looks were matched by his speed or whether he was just one of those dogs whom their masters feed at table and keep for show.
Then you, Eumaeus the swineherd, said in reply,
This dog did have a master, but it's all too plain that he died abroad. If he was now what he was in the heyday of his looks and form, as Odysseus left him when he sailed for Troy, you'd be astonished at his speed and power. No game that he gave chase to could escape him in the deepest depth of No game that he gave chase to could escape him in the deepest depth of the forest. He was a marvel, too, at picking up the scent. But now he's in a bad way. His master has died far away from home, and the women are too thoughtless to look after him. Servants, when their masters are no longer there to order them about, have little will to do their duties as they should. All-seeing Zeus takes half the good out of a man on the day he becomes a slave.
With this, Eumaeus left him. I wonder why people get bitter and shitty when they're slaves. Because they're slaves. They don't get paid for this shit. They just got kidnapped, put on a ship, and sold off. With this, Eumaeus left him, and, entering the stately palace, passed straight into the hall where the haughty suitors were assembled. As for Argus, the black hand of death descended on him the moment he... Oh no! As for Argus, the black hand of death descended on him the moment he caught sight of Odysseus after 20 years. That's really sad. The godlike Telemachus was the first to observe the swineherd coming through the palace, and beckoned to him at once to join him. Eumaeus looked about him and picked up a stool which stood there for the carver to sit on when carving meat for the suitors at their banquets in the hall. They've really made themselves at home, haven't they? This he brought and placed at Telemachus's table opposite him, and sat down. A steward fetched a portion of meat, which he set before him, and helped him to bread from a basket. Close on his heels, Odysseus entered the buildings. He looked like some wretched old beggar leaning on a stick, his body covered with filthy rags. He sat down on the ash wood threshold just inside the door, with his back against a pillar of cypress smoothed by some carpenter long ago and expertly trued to the line. Telemachus beckoned the swineherd to his side, and, selecting a whole loaf from the beautiful bowl of bread, and as much meat as his cupped hands would hold, he said, "Take this food and give it to the stranger, and tell him to go the rounds himself and beg from each of the suitors in turn, for diffidence doesn't suit a person in need." As instructed, the swineherd went up to Odysseus and spoke these winged words.
Stranger, Telemachus gives you this and tells you to go the rounds and beg from each of the suitors in turn. He says that diffidence doesn't suit a beggar.
Resourceful Odysseus responded with these words.
I pray to you, Lord Zeus, to make Telemachus a happy man, and grant him all the wishes of his heart.
He then stretched out both hands to take the food, put it down in front of his feet on his shabby bag, and ate his meal while the minstrels sang in the hall. He had finished his supper just as the divine bard was coming to an end, and then the company began to fill the hall with uproar. Athene now appeared before Odysseus, Laertes' son, and urged him to go round collecting scraps from the suitors, and so learn to distinguish the good from the bad, though this did not mean that in the end she was to save a single one from destruction. So Odysseus set off and began to beg from them one after the other, working from left to right, and stretching out his hand to each like a man who has been a beggar all his life. They gave him food out of pity, and, surprised at his appearance, asked each other who he was and where he had come from. At this point, the goatherd Melanthius called out,
"Suitors of our noble queen, listen to what I can tell you about this stranger.
"Like you know anything.
I've seen him before.
Once, on the way here."
It was when the swineherd was bringing him down here, but I really don't know who he is and where he comes from."
"Then shut the fork up." At once Antinous rounded on Eumaeus.
How typical of our distinguished swineherd,
he cried.
Why did you bring this fellow to town? Haven't we vagabonds enough already? Loathsome beggars, plate lickers at our feasts. Are you so dissatisfied with the numbers collected here to eat your master's food that you must ask this fellow as well?
Then Eumaeus the swineherd, replied,
"Antinous, you may be nobly born, but there's nothing noble in your speech. Who would of his own accord approach and invite a wandering stranger in, unless he were a craftsman who worked for the whole community, a prophet, a physician, a carpenter, or even a divine minstrel who can give pleasure with his songs? For all the world over, such guests as those are welcomed, whereas nobody would call a beggar in to eat up his food. But of all the suitors, you are always the hardest on Odysseus's servants, and especially on me. However, I care little for that as long as thoughtful Penelope and the godlike Telemachus are alive in the palace."
"Enough now," prudent Telemachus interposed. "Don't bandy words with Antinous. It's always his way to rouse a man's passion with his evil tongue, and egg the others on as well." Then he rounded on Antinous with words that flew. "Antinous, I appreciate your fatherly concern on my behalf when you tell me to order the stranger harshly out of the house. God forbid such a thing. Give him something yourself. I don't grudge it you, indeed I wish you would. Have no fear, either, of offending my mother or any of my noble father's servants by your charity. But there's no such idea in your head. You'd far sooner eat the food yourself than give it away."
"What a speech, Telemachus,"
retorted Antinous.
"and what a temper! If all the suitors were to treat him as I shall, the house would not see him for 3 months."
As he spoke, he seized the stool that supported his smooth feet during meals, and brought it into view from under the table where it lay. All the rest gave something, and filled the bag with bread and meat. It looked as if Odysseus might now regain his seat on the threshold without having to pay for his experiment with the suitors. But he paused beside Antinous and addressed him directly.
"Give me something, my friend. You don't seem the meanest of these lords, but the noblest here, since you look every inch a king. Good reason why you should give me a better portion than the rest, and I'd sing your praises the wide world over. Time was when I too was one of the lucky ones with a rich house to live in, and I have often given to such vagrant as myself, no matter who he was or what his needs were. I had hundreds of servants, and plenty of all that one needs to live in luxury and to be known as a rich man. But Zeus, son of Kronos, it must have been his will, wrecked my life when he sent me to Egypt with roving pirates, a long journey, to destroy me. I anchored my curved ships in the Nile. There I ordered my good men to stay by the ships on guard, while I sent out some scouts to reconnoitre
Hate that word.
from the heights. But these ran amok, and carried away by their own violence, began to plunder some of the fine Egyptian farms, carrying off the women and children and killing the men. The hue and cries soon reached the city, and the townsfolk, roused by the alarm, poured out at dawn. The whole plain was filled with infantry and chariots and the glint of arms. Zeus the Thunderer struck abject panic into my party. Not a man had the spirit to stand and face the enemy, for we were threatened on all sides. They ended by cutting down a large part of my force and carrying off the survivors to work for them as slaves. As for me, they handed me over to a friend they met to take me to Cyprus, a man called Demeter, son of Iasus, who rules the island by force. And it's from Cyprus that I came here in great distress, as you see.
What god
Exclaimed Antinous.
has inflicted this plague on us to spoil our dinner? Stand out there in the middle and keep clear of my table, or you'll end up in the sort of Egypt and Cyprus you won't relish. The audacity and impudence of the beggar. He is only to pester each man in turn, and they give him food without a thought. They all have plenty before them, and nobody shows restraint or consideration when it comes to being generous with other people's possessions.
Yeah, the stuff that you are basically frickin' stealing from Odysseus. The man stood in front of you, but little do you know. Quick-witted Odysseus drew back and said,
Well, well, so you haven't the brains to match your looks. You wouldn't give so much as a pinch of salt from your household store to a servant of your own. You who sit here at another man's table and can't bring yourself to take a bit of his bread and give it to me, though there's plenty there.
This enraged Antinous still more. He gave him a black look and his words flew.
I fancy you won't leave this hall in one piece after such an insolent speech.
And picking up a stool, he threw it and struck Odysseus on the back under the right shoulder. But Odysseus stood firm as a rock and did not reel at the blow. He just shook his head in silence, filled with thoughts of revenge. Then he went back to the threshold, where he sat down, dropped his bulging bag, and addressed the suitors.
Listen to me, you lords who are courting the illustrious queen, while I say what I feel. A knock or two, when a man is fighting for his own property, his oxen or white sheep, is nothing to cry about or resent. But this blow from Antinous was all because of my wretched belly, that cursed thing that is responsible for so many troubles of mankind. If there are any gods and avenging furies for beggars, I hope Antinous will be dead before his wedding day.
Sit quietly and eat, stranger.
Antinous, Eupeithes' son, retorted.
Or take yourself somewhere else. Otherwise, talk like that will end in our young men dragging you through the house by the leg or arm and tearing your skin to ribbons.
But the rest of them were deeply shocked, and one arrogant youth would say to another,
Antinous, you did wrong to strike the wretched vagrant. You're a doomed man if he turns out to be some god from heaven. And the gods do disguise themselves as strangers from abroad, and move from town to town in every shape, observing the deeds of the just and the unjust.
That was the talk among the suitors, but Antinous took no notice of what they said. And Telemachus, though the blow made him bitterly sorry for his father, let no tear from his eyes fall to the ground, but shook his head in silence, filled with thoughts of revenge. But when the wise Queen Penelope heard of the assault on the stranger in her palace, she cried out with her maids around her.
I hope the archer Apollo strikes you as you struck him.
And the housekeeper, Eumaeus, chimed in. Ah, if we could only have our wishes, there's not a man among them who'd see dawn on her beautiful throne tomorrow.
Nurse, dear,
The thoughtful Penelope went on.
I hate the whole gang for the wicked plots they hatch, but Antinous especially is like a black spirit of destruction. An unfortunate stranger, driven by poverty, came wandering through the house begging. All the rest were generous and filled his bag, but Antinous threw a stool at his back and hit him on the right shoulder.
While Penelope was speaking to her maids, as she sat in her apartment, the noble Odysseus was eating his supper. Penelope now summoned her trusty swineherd and said,
Go, my good Eumaeus, and ask the stranger to come here. I should like to welcome him and ask whether he has heard anything about my valiant husband or seen him with his own eyes. He has the look of a man who has travelled far.
Then you, Eumaeus the swineherd, said in reply,
My queen, I only wish the young lords would be quiet. With the tales he can tell, the man would hold you spellbound. 3 nights I had him. 3 days I kept him in my hut, for I was the first man he came across on escaping from his ship. But even so, he couldn't finish the story of his misfortunes. Sitting in my home, he held me spellbound. It was like fixing one's eyes on a minstrel who has been taught by the gods to sing words that bring delight to mortals, and everyone longs to hear him when he sings. He says he is an old family friend of Odysseus, and lives in Crete, the home of the descendants of King Minos. Starting from there like a rolling stone, and after many painful adventures, he has now arrived here, and he is positive that he has heard of Odysseus, that he's near at hand and alive, in the rich Thesprotian country, and bringing home a fortune.
Go now and call him,
said the thoughtful Penelope,
so that he can tell me his story himself, and let these others sit outside or in the hall below and enjoy themselves, as they're in a cheerful mood. Their own wealth, their bread and mellow wine, lies untouched at home, with no one but their servants to consume it, while they spend their whole time in and out of our house.
Can you not just tell them to go away? It's your house. You're allowed to not have guests. Is that not how that works?
They slaughter our oxen, our sheep, and our fatted goats. They feast themselves and drink our sparkling wine without a second thought. The truth is, much of our wealth is being squandered. There is nobody like Odysseus in charge to purge the house of this blight. Ah, if Odysseus could only come back to his own country, he and his son would soon pay them out for their crimes.
As she finished, Telemachus gave a loud sneeze, and the startling noise echoed round the house. Penelope laughed, turned to Eumaeus, and said in words that flew,
Go and bring this stranger here to me. Didn't you notice that my son sneezed a blessing on all I had said? May this meet...
Sneezed a blessing? What? Yeah, but that's... Bless you is like you blessing the person who sneezed, and if this is not one of those urban legend thingies, it came from the plague. If somebody sneezed, you thought maybe they had the plague, so you blessed them so that they might not die. But I didn't realise that a sneeze could be a blessing. I've lost my place.
May this mean that death is inevitable for all the suitors. Not a man can escape his doom. One more point, and don't forget it. If, when I hear him tell his own story, I consider he is telling nothing but the truth, I will give him a fine new cloak and tunic.
I mean, he's kind of going to be lying to you, though, because he is Odysseus. With these instructions, the swineherd left her, and approaching the stranger, spoke these winged words.
My friend,
he said,
the wise Penelope, Telemachus's mother, summons you. Sorrow-stricken as she is moved to ask you some questions about her husband. If she considers you are telling nothing but the truth, she will give you a cloak and tunic, which you need more than anything else. And then you can satisfy your stomach by begging for bread in the town, where anyone who wants to will give you food.
Eumaeus,
answered the much-enduring Odysseus,
I should be glad to give Icarius's daughter, the wise Penelope, the whole truth, for I am well informed about Odysseus, whose misfortunes I have shared. But I am frightened of this crowd of hot-tempered suitors, whose insolence and violent acts reach as high as the iron heavens. Just now, when that fellow struck me with a painful blow, as I was walking harmlessly through the house, neither Telemachus nor anyone else lifted a finger to save me. So ask Penelope to wait in the hall and restrain her impatience till sunset, when she can question me about her husband's homecoming. Then let her give me a seat nearer the fire, for my clothes are mere rags, as you know, since it was you whom I first asked for help.
When he heard what the other had to say, the swineherd went back. As soon as he crossed the threshold of her room, Penelope exclaimed,
Eumaeus, you haven't brought him. What does the wanderer mean by this? Is he afraid of someone in particular, or is there some other reason why he lingers timidly? A timid beggar is a bad beggar.
He talks good sense.
Eumaeus replied.
Anyone who wanted to avoid being attacked by those insolent men would feel the same. He asks you to wait till sundown. That time would suit you better too, my queen, as it will allow you to converse with the stranger in private.
The stranger is no fool,
The thoughtful Penelope answered.
However matters turn out. In the whole world, I don't believe there's another set of brutal and evil schemers like these.
His message delivered, the worthy swineherd left her and rejoined the assembled suitors, where he at once sought out Telemachus and, holding his head close, whispered winged words in his ear so that the others could not hear him.
Dear master, I am leaving presently to look after the pigs in the farm, your livelihood and mine. It's for you to see to everything here. Look to your own safety first, and take care that you don't come to harm. For plenty of these Achaeans harbour evil thoughts. May Zeus destroy them before they destroy us.
Very well, old friend, said the prudent Telemachus. Go when you've had your supper, and in the morning come back with some good beasts for slaughter. I will see to everything here. I and the immortal gods. The swineherd sat down again on the polished settle, and when he had satisfied his appetite and thirst, went back to his pigs, leaving the courts and hall full of banqueters who, as the evening drew on, turned to the pleasures of singing and dancing.